It's January 10th, 2022. This is Roqe. Hi there, welcome to episode 162 of Roqe. Hope you're keeping well wherever you're tuning in from around the world. Salam دوستان عزیز, درود. امیدوارم هستم که خوب و میزون باشین. Hello to you from Toronto, Canada. Welcome to one of our special themed episodes of Roqe in the next couple of weeks. Hi, Groovy Shaya.
Hi, Azza.
Today we are focusing on the tennis titans, two remarkable humans of Iranian descent, both of them having been outstanding athletes on the tennis courts, and both of them now located in France. First up, the legendary star player and international favorite Mansour Bahrami, and then the young talent who rose from a modest Persian family to become a top-ranked tennis star in the early 2000s, Aravane Rezai, both of them still playing, both of them in France. Coming up, we are coming to you on roqemedia.com. It is there that you can link to all of our platforms and where you can become a patron or a sponsor. We're on our ongoing mission to build a new audiovisual encyclopedia of Iranian diaspora identity. We're on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and CastBox. And if you'd like to see some visuals with Roqe or see us on social media, switch over to YouTube or Instagram right now at Roqe Media. And if you like your descriptions and bulletins in English and in Persian, check us out on Telegram. All right. Let's get to our guests. This is a special themed episode of Roqe. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. This is the Tennis Titans. Imagine being a teenage tennis prodigy living in a sports complex housing 14 courts and not being allowed to step foot on one. Imagine teaching yourself to play tennis with dustpans, frying pans, or a plank of wood before you ever own your first tennis racket at the age of 13. Imagine that despite all of your unorthodox equipment and dearth of practice, you get the opportunity to play for the first time on a court only when the national team is short one player. Then you make it to the Davis Cup and you help your national team all by the age of 16. You're widely seen as one of the best new players on the international scene, and then, boom, a revolution in your country shifts power to a government that considers tennis a, quote, Western capitalist and elitist sport, and slams shut all tennis courts in the country, and with it, your prospects of being one of the world greats in your prime. Well, my first guest today is a legendary doubles player, a tennis star, and an international favorite. He's also one of the most talented tennis tricksters of all time, a maverick who can serve while holding 6 tennis balls in one hand, a man who chats with the crowd whilst feeding lobs to his opposition, a man who can catch tennis balls in his pocket while playing an improbable winning shot. Mansour Bahrami is an Iranian-French former professional tennis player who reached the French Open doubles final in 1989, and he has been a mainstay of the seniors invitational tennis circuit for more than 20 years, running some of the legends' meets. Mansour is considered to have found his niche on the ATP Champions Tour, where his flamboyant style and propensity for spectacular shots jived with the tour's more entertainment-oriented mandate. In reference to his own showmanship, his 2009 English-language autobiography is titled The Court Jester. He still plays tournaments with greats around the world, and right now, Mansour Bahrami joins me from Paris, France. Hello, monsieur.
Hello. Hello to you and all the people who are listening to us.
What a great pleasure it is to speak to you. Merci que Omadia. We're really happy to have you on this program.
It's a pleasure.
I want to get into your whole story, but before I do, You're widely known as not just a great player, Mansour, but the great entertainer. Especially in recent years, you've made it clear that winning comes second to you after wanting the audience to really enjoy themselves. And it's a really lovely sentiment, but it's not something we often hear from athletes who seem to be trained to just want to win, win, win. Where does the incentive to entertain come from in you?
Jian, when I started playing tennis, there was no money. I didn't play tennis to become rich. It was a game that was forbidden for me. And we would go out of the tennis club, outside somewhere, just make it like a tennis court as a 10 years old, 9 years old kid can do, We do our lines and then put a net. And then I would play with my friends with a dustpan, with a piece of wood. And we were just having fun. It was a fun game, and we would do all these trick shots. We would try to do who's doing better trick shots. And so this stayed on me. And you say why I do that? I never had a tennis lesson in my life. I never had a tennis coach in my life. And so once you are self-taught, you're doing it alone. Yeah, and no one is there to tell you, no, you cannot do this, you're not allowed to do that, you have to do a decent tennis, serious point, you have to win. So it's just stayed the game for me. When I start, people always seems to enjoy my game. Even if when I was 10, 12 years old, hitting against the wall, people would just stop and say, wow, how you do that? And I don't know, I still don't know. I just tell them, I don't know, I just played like this all my life. And you said winning is secondary for me. I love to win. It's not that I like to lose. The main thing for me is when people leaving after my match, I love to see people with a big smile. It has happened that I have sometimes won a match, and I thought that, okay, but people didn't really enjoy it that as much as I wanted them to enjoy it. So it was like a loss for me. I feel like I am going on the stage on a theater, and then people are there, and I feel like I'm like a one-man show. I do my stuff, and I love to see people with a big smile. That's my goal.
It's so. I mean, this is why people love you too, because they can feel that you're there for them. There's so much you just said there. I'm going to get into those 10 best years that you lost, but I have to say, when you talk about, because I've seen you in other interviews, you say, I don't know how I'm doing these tricks. I'm sorry, I'm not going to say that you're yani duruq bigivali. I don't believe you. I think you must know. I think you are a master who knows exactly what you're doing, and you play this guy who says, I don't know, but your shots are too spectacular for you to not know how you're doing them.
Yeah, I don't lie. I have no one ever taught me these things. When, for example, people tell me I held 21 balls in my hand once. People tell me, how you do that? The only explanation I had for this was that from age 5 to age 13, I was ball boying for people. I was ball boying from 5 o'clock in the morning and sometimes till 8, 9 at night. And just sometimes I had all these balls in my hand and waiting for the man who was playing to ask me for a ball. So I think this comes to my mind. That's how, and that's why I learned to keep the 21 balls in hand. I can serve with 9 balls in the hand and toss one without dropping the others. But nobody came to tell, okay, Mansour, I want to teach you how to serve with 8 balls, 9 balls, 6 balls. I just do it myself, and I tried this, and I see people laughing, they're having good time, and I say, great, I'm so happy to be able to make people laugh, which is not always easy. I'm not a very funny man in the everyday life, but on the tennis court, I am the happiest man in the world, and I could be the funniest man on the court, because that I know since 40 years, 50 years, I make people laugh, and they say thank you, and that is the best salary for me, just to see them smile and say, Mansour, we had good time, thank you for this. sometimes people tell me, Mansour, my wife hated tennis. So I brought it. Since she saw you, she's playing tennis. She wants to play tennis. People tell me this every day. And this is why I'm still at 64 playing. And this is what I like to hear. This is what I like to see, that people having fun and enjoying. And that's great. I mean, I love it.
My only point was you're also a great player, and there's no way that you're as good as you are without practicing. So you make it seem easy, but those tricks are the tricks. I mean, there's a reason why McEnroe and Ilie Nastase and all these guys consider you one of the greats. It's because of your technique too, right?
They are very kind with me. I mean, I have had the honor and privilege to play with the biggest name of our sport, and which is not given to many people. I played with people like Rod Laver, who's our the god of tennis.
Yes.
I played with Ken Rosewall, Newcomb, Roach, and then coming down to Santana, Nastase, Connors, Borg, and it's been fantastic. And when Jimmy Connors started his tour, back in 1994, we knew each other. We have played some exhibitions in Europe. He said, Mansour, I want you to play every tournament of my tour. And it was great, So I said, yeah, I mean, it wasn't because I was a Grand Slam winner or past number one. It was just because I was doing something that the others didn't or couldn't do it, So that's why I was there. And I was the only one who was playing every tournament of Jimmy. And that was fantastic.
Take me back. I want to actually go step by step through how we got to where you are today. You have this remarkable story. And, all of us in the Iranian diaspora are affected by the events of Iran in the last 41 years. But you're one of these very difficult stories. First of all, let's go back before the Inqilab, before the revolution. What was your early childhood like in Iran? What do you remember as a little kid?
My great parents, they were farmers. They lived in a village in Iraq, which is like 300 kilometers from Tehran. They had a lot of livestock and everything. They lost everything. I was born in 1956, in April 1956. 9 months after my father and mother and the family, they came to Tehran because my grandparents lost everything. And my father came to Tehran. He didn't have anything. He was already 59 years old. And he had a job as a gardener in Amjadieh Stadium. Amjadieh was the paradise on earth for me, the best place in all my life. If everything has to come back to 1957, 58, I would love to do the same thing and come back to Amjadieh. And my father had a gardener job in this sport complex, Amjadieh Stadium. And I was 2, 3 years old. I started walking and I saw every sports court and field and everything. And it was okay. I could go anywhere. I had no people, they knew me, They were, this is Mansour, the little Mansour. And I had no problem doing any others. I mean, to going to football field, basketball, volleyball, swimming and everything. But tennis, every time I came to the court, they kicked my ass and they said out, And so I couldn't understand why they don't want me here. So after coming back, and then I was 5, 6 years old, they said, okay, you can come here and you are only allowed to do ball boy. You are not allowed to go on court and hit on the courts. So I was happy. I was playing ball boying for 10 cents an hour, and then I loved the game and I just wanted to play tennis because
wait a second.
Forbidden.
So when you see all of these sports, lots of kids, especially Iranian kids, would love, for example, football, soccer. You see all these sports. Do you remember what it was? Because this was going to become now the rest of your life, decades of your life. Do you remember first seeing tennis? What it was about this sport that so captured your imagination?
The very, very first thing was that the only sport that I was in, sleeping. I would wake up by the sound of the ball hitting been hit by a racket,
Wow.
5 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, because in Tehran, especially in the summertime, it gets so hot after like 9, 10, people don't play tennis anymore until 4, 5 in the afternoon, and then it cools down, and then they'll come back and play. But that's why when I say 5 in the morning was the busiest time of playing tennis. People would come at 5 in the morning. I could hear the sound of the ball, and it's just something that I think I liked, and I would just come up and go and see people play, and later on be ball boy, and I was making 10 cents per hour. That was the fee that we were getting.
And I'm
That
guessing
was
I'm guessing that not that this would be unique to Iran. This was the case all over the world. It's become a little more accessible now, but I'm guessing there was a real class divide. Like tennis was more for rich people, right?
Tennis, it was in Iran in 1965. I think we had maybe in the whole country, we had maybe 35, 40 tennis courts.
Oh,
Not clubs, huh? I'm saying in Tehran, we had Amjadieh Stadium, and that's it.
wow.
And you had the English embassy who had the one court, French embassy had the court, American embassy had the court, but that was for themselves. Beside that, you had in the whole country, you had 35, maybe 40 courts. And then later on, we had the Imperial Country Club, and then the Taj Tennis Club, and many others. But tennis was a new sport, and it was for the elite, and
Yeah.
just because of that, there were so many people wanted to play, mainly rich people, and so there was no room for me to go and play.
So there's this mental image that I have of you playing with frying pans, and because you love this sport, but you don't have, and there's so many great. Almost mythical stories of great athletes, great soccer players who played with bare feet, or hockey players who had to borrow skates and stuff them full of newspapers to fit the right size. And you're there with frying pans. When was the first time you got your hands on a real racket, on a real tennis court?
When I was, like 12 years old, I was ball boying for Shirzad Akbari. Shirzad Akbari was my idol. Yeah, he was playing Davis Cup for Iran. I was ball boying for him. He was giving tennis lesson, for living, and I was ball boying. So one day he said, Mansour, if you ball boy properly today, I have a gift for you. I said, okay, I'm gonna do the best I can. At the end of the evening, he gave me a racket, and I was 12 years old, and so here I am with my first racket of my life. And so I was so excited, so happy that I have a real racket. I couldn't sleep really that night. And then day after I have my racket, I come to the tennis court. It's like one in the afternoon. There we had 13 courts in the Amjadieh Stadium, and every court was empty. And it was like a hot summer day, and I had a friend there. He was allowed to play, and he said, Mansour, let's go play, try your racket, here's your first racket and everything. So I couldn't wait, and I really had to take this risk and to go to the court. And we went and we played like maybe 45 seconds, max 1 minute, and I saw myself surrounded by the guards. And so all they needed to ask me was, Mansour, F off, go out, and I knew that I have to go, so no problem. But one of this guy, he grabbed me, he stopped me, he took me over his head for 6, 7 times, and he smashed me on the ground. And I swear to God, I thought that it was the last day of my life.
Yes.
So there was blood all over the place. I couldn't really move anymore. And he went towards my racket, and I said to him, please don't touch my racket. And he gave me a very bad look, and he took my racket, he put it on a step, and he smashed it in two, and there was like he broke my racket. That was the first memory of my first racket.
I mean, your story is amazing, not just because we'll get to the revolution where that derails your career, obviously, but even before that, there's so many obstacles. You know, you don't have the equipment, and then you're beaten up and your racket is smashed. Nevertheless, by the age of 16, you become selected to be part of the Iranian Davis Cup team, and you become one of the country's top players, effectively. And Mansour, I mean, you said in the beginning you didn't, you just saw this as a fun thing, but when you're 16 and then you're with the Davis Cup, did you know at this point that there were tennis stars making a lot of Rod Laver, making a lot of money playing this sport? Did it occur to you at that age in Iran that this could actually be a career?
Well, I knew that there were stars. I knew about Rod Laver. I knew about Ken Rosewall. But no, I was not aware of how much money they make or anything. When I was 12, 13, we didn't have television. We couldn't see the tennis tournaments. So no, I was not aware how much money they are making. But I know that as soon as they allow me to play, when I was 13, they said, okay, Mansour, Federation said, Mansour, now you can go on court anytime you want, as much as you want. Here is 2 rackets and you play. And I start winning. When I was 14, I won under 16 and under 18, even with piece of wood, I could have beat people who played since 10 years. Even today, I'm able to beat people who play, club members with a piece of wood. I bet I can go on court and beat them, So, and that was, I was making a lot of betting that, with a piece of wood, with a frying pan, I can beat you. And people would say, no, how can you do? I said, okay, let's go to the court. We bet, I don't know, $10, $10. That's why I was making my money. So by the time I became 16, 17, I was top 3, 4 player in Iran, but again, when I was 20, everything stopped.
Yes.
We had one of the biggest ATP tournaments in Iran in 1977. That was the last time we did it. And it was canceled for 78 because there was hundreds of thousands of people in the streets and no one could dare go and play tennis.
Right.
So in February 79, Islamic Republic was officially installed. But in 78 we didn't play, 79 we didn't play, 80 we didn't play. So.
But you're this player in your prime, and I want to get to your personal story. But first of all, for those non-Iranians listening, or for anyone who doesn't remember how exactly this went down, and I'm sorry to make you be the person to explain this to us, but why on earth would a sport be entirely banned by a regime? What was their exact reasoning?
Well, they said tennis, especially tennis. They said is an American capitalist game we don't want. They tried to stop every sport, but the one which was more damaged was like tennis, because it was for the elite, because they said we don't want, because the ladies, they were playing with the skirts, very short skirts,
right.
And I left, but like 3-4 years later, they finally opened because there were many people who were living from tennis. So they put pressure. And myself, in summer of 1980, we were there every day with the Ministry of Sport, asking them, please open and thing. And finally, we came with this idea of doing a tournament called Revolution Cup.
Let me get to that, but first, you then at this point, you're one of the best players in the country. You're top 3, if not number 1. Do you remember when you first heard you would no longer be able to play tennis? Can you take us back to the emotion you would have felt hearing that your country is banning the sport that you're number 1 of?
Well, in 1978, when we had this tournament was going to happen, in 77, 78, I was traveling to play the ATP tournaments, and then things were going really rough in Iran and dangerous. Sometimes people were dying, sometimes in the revolution. There was fire everywhere. And so I came back to Iran, and many people, those who were playing tennis, were mainly, the elite, and many of them left Iran. So the course automatically became with no clients. Nobody was playing. I couldn't go there play just alone. It was very dangerous. People would come to the club and could just kill you, or beat you up. And then the tournament that we had, which was called Aravane Cup, it was one of the biggest tournaments. I think there was 2-3 tournaments were paying $150,000, and Iran was one of them as prize money. So the tournament, they said we can't, impossible to organize. It's very dangerous. So we had to, 2 weeks before the tournament, everything was canceled, and then but we stayed there. We couldn't do anything. We just were playing backgammon all day to pass the time until a few months after, officially, they just put the locks on every door of the clubs. And then we saw there was trees were growing on the clay court, which was very, very heartbreaking for me and my friends, tennis players.
You were a young man still at this point. You're in your early 20s. I mean, what were your parents saying? What were your close? Were they saying just, hey, stay away, don't give up this tennis stuff at this point?
No, my parents really didn't know what exactly tennis is. My father knew that there was tennis court. My mother never saw me play tennis. My father never saw me play tennis. My mother saw me for the first time play tennis in France. Many years after, when I invite her to come.
Sorry, so even when you're number one in the late 70s in Iran, they don't watch you play?
No, but they didn't. They never came to any tournament to watch me, because, as I said, it was for the elite, and we were not the elite. So I was sometimes even, I was one of the best tennis player, top 2-3, and I was going to play with some friends of mine one of them is in New York. My friend Jahangir. He's a great man. I love him. I talk to him today. I talk to him every day. And he was member of the club Imperial. I would go with my friend Kambiz Derafshavan. We were Asian champion. We would go play with our friends there. And when the director was coming, we had to hide because he could kick us out. I don't understand that. You can go here. I go to any club, people come to me, Mansour, thank you for coming. But in my home, it wasn't like that.
It must have been hard for you. You're on the Davis Cup team to not be able to share how good you were with your parents.
It was very hard, but that was only in that club. But most of the time, it was good. But we had a crazy director in that club, and he didn't allow us. And until one day, one of the members we were playing with, he stopped in front of the man and he said, "Hey, listen, man, you have to do your best. 2 top players here. You have to be proud, and he said, if you say something, I'm going to smack you." And so from then on, it was easier. We could go and play.
So your tennis career effectively gets suspended in your prime with the revolution, and there are some curious details about this period with you, and that I want to ask you about. First of all, you just mentioned it. You repeatedly mentioned. I've noticed in some interviews of you I was watching that you spent 3 years after the revolution. This is following the ban on tennis, playing backgammon every day. Why takhte? Why backgammon? What was that about?
Because it was gambling. The Iranians, they love to gamble. They never do anything without saying, I bet you, shart mi bandam, I bet you this, I bet you that. So we didn't have anything else, actually, and nothing else to do. The country was on fire, everything was burning, everything, no job. For me, I'm a tennis player, I'm not a banker, I'm not a politician, I'm not an actor, so and backgammon, there was in the tennis court tennis club, we were playing backgammon every day. People would come there and wait for their court until the court is ready. While waiting, they were playing backgammon. So it was like a game that everybody plays. So we played backgammon for 2-3 years, and nothing else to do. 18 hours backgammon. It was very, very, very sad and difficult to do that. But that was all we had to do. There's nothing we could do.
So you make your case to the authorities. Come on, let us play tennis. And you play a role in starting this thing called the Revolution Cup. And then in July 1980, you have this tournament where the prize for the number one is a flight to Athens, right? And you
right.
win.
Tehran, Athens, Tehran.
Yeah. So you win, but after winning the first prize, which is a ticket to Athens, you pay an extra couple $100 and change your ticket to go to Nice, to go to France. Why did you choose France?
Because my first thing would be America. I wanted to go to America. I had a visa valid from 1977, November 1977 till November 1981. But if you remember, in 1980 they had a crisis with the hostages. You know, the American embassy was taken by the students, follower of Imam, and so the Americans, they start kicking out all the Iranians, and they told us officially, Iranians are not allowed to come to America. Even those who have a valid visa, their visa is canceled.
Right.
So, and I knew after America, the best place for tennis is France, because I had traveled in America, I traveled in Europe, I traveled in Africa, in Australia. I knew the best place would be France. Why? Because France is here we have 10,000 clubs, and 10,000 clubs, they organize at least one tournament a year. Those days, and even today, France is the best place for practicing for the youngsters who want to become professional. Is the best place.
Right.
You can play very competitive tennis, and you can make like at that time I was making like 300, 400 to win a tournament, you know, just to survive, just to make my living, you know, and wait until I have an opportunity to play on the ATP tournaments. So that is why I came to France.
And you leave your obviously you leave your family behind, and your friends in Iran, and your girlfriend. Did you, in other words, you loved tennis, you had this passion so much for tennis that you knew this is what you had to do, despite all that you were going to have to lose to leave and do this?
Absolutely. Leaving my family was really not a pleasure to leave. It was just really, my heart was broken, and it still is. There is not 1 hour in day that I don't think about Iran, about my family who's back there, you know, and the Iranians. But what could I do? If the tennis was on, I would never leave my country. I love my country of Iran, but I had to go because I love tennis too. And without tennis, I can't breathe. I can't live. So I had to leave to play tennis. And I knew in Iran, I had nothing left. I had spent all my money to continue living. I had to leave. I was very lucky. I was single. I had no kids or wife. So it was much easier to leave, because when I came to France, it wasn't easy either, because I had very, very tough time for a year.
Well, by the way, you say you didn't have, you spent your savings. You get to Nice. I don't know if this is a true story. I think you said in one interview, the first night you get to France, you gamble what you have at a casino in Nice.
I left at 6:30 from Tehran, and I landed at 10:30 in Nice. And here I was speaking in English to the people. I needed help to know where I can go, what can I do. No one would even look at me. So after a while, I said, okay, what am I going to do? I went to the hotel. There was like a tourist office desk there, and I went there and I said, please help me. I need a hotel room tonight. I have nowhere to sleep. And the lady there, she smiled at me. She said, wow, sure. 8th of August, and you want a room. There is none, zero. Everything is fully booked. And So I got out of the airport and I started walking and beside the sea on the Promenade des Anglais, and you have the sea on your right, and on your left you have all this the street, the traffic, and so it was very hot, as you can imagine, 8th of August in south of France, and so I'm right away by the beach, and I see these ladies playing beach volley, and all topless, and I don't know if I'm dreaming or if I'm really, this is real. I'm pinching myself, because you might laugh or smile when I say that, but living with the Ayatollahs for 3.5 years, all you see the Ayatollah in television and radio, you forget what is outside of Iran.
Right.
So, and I walked for like 2 hours, and I was hungry, I was thirsty, so I bought a sandwich and I bought a bottle of water, and it cost me like nearly 20 francs. And I had in my pocket $2,000. That was everything I had. So that was like 8,000 francs. And I said, how am I going to do with 8,000 francs if I go to the worst hotel, if I go to if I eat the cheapest food, I can last for 10 days here, 10, 12 days. And not knowing the language, there is no way I can find a club where I can, play the club championship and give lessons or. So here I'm sitting and I'm eating my sandwiches, and then in front of me, I see casino rule. So this great idea comes to my head that I have to go to the casino and try to win 30, 40,000 francs. And so maybe I can stay here 2-3 months with this money, to last 3 months, 4 months. As I say to myself, the longer I stay, better chance
More
I
chance
have
of-
to
yeah.
find a place,
Right.
a club, to play for. So, and I say, if I lose, staying here 10 days or 1 day, it doesn't change anything. So I went to the casino, and then 15 minutes later, I came up with 0 cents. And that was like 1 in the afternoon. And it's been only 3 hours I'm in France, and I have no money left.
So just to recap, the best tennis player in Iran is
Yeah.
in France, has lost all his money. There's a revolution back home, and you're this kid in your early 20s. It must have been a very confusing time to try to decide what you want to do.
Yeah, it was really very, very hard, very, very difficult. And then, I come out, and my head is like, I don't know what to think. I can't not even think. So finally, I have no choice, and I'm saying I have to go back. So I go to Iran Air office, and I make my reservation for day after to go back to Tehran. And in the same time, I'm saying, Jesus, everybody is going to laugh at me, and he say, I'm ashamed, And so I'm crossing the street, and I see a friend that I had not seen for 3-4 years, Farrokh Moazed, which was a good tennis player. And he says to me, Mansour, I'm so happy to see you. What are you doing? When did you came here? And it's great, the best move you did. You had no future in
Wait,
Iran.
hang on. The same day that you've left the casino?
Yeah. Just
You-
out of the,
You're walking
out
on the
of-
street, and he said you happened to see a friend. This is a crazy
Yeah.
story, Mansour. Yeah, I've never
And
heard this story before.
He's a very good friend of mine, and he says to me, that was the best move you did to come out of Iran, because there was no future for you. And I say, yeah. And he says, when did you come? I said, I came here this morning, but the problem is I'm going back tomorrow. He says, what do you mean? I said, I just went to casino and lost. He says, there is no way I'm going to let you, stupid. How could you go to casino? I said, listen, man, this is done. This is done now. And so he says to me, listen, let's go. I'm playing this afternoon. There was a club tournament. He was in the final. He says, let's go there. Maybe we can see somebody who can help you from the federation. So we go there, and his opponent is the vice president of the tennis league of Côte d'Azur, of south of France. So we tell the guy what is my level and how I'm playing, and I told him that 3 years ago I beat the French team in Gallia Cup, and he says, yeah, I heard of that. It was you in the team. I said, yeah, I won against the number one, and we won against France, and which was disaster for French team. I thought we were a better team, and it was normal anyway. But he says to me, well, I don't know you, but if you say the truth, you have no problem staying here and leaving of your tennis. But for that, I'm going to enter you to 4 or 5 tournaments you're going to play, so I can see exactly what is your level of tennis. And so I said, okay. But then I said to my friend Farokh, this is fine. But, I have to go from here to Toulon. But that was the first tournament, Toulon. Day after I had to go. I said, I have to pay my train and everything. I have no money. And he says, well, Jahangir is here. This is the number, you call him, and he'll help you. And Jahangir, my friend, when I was 17, 18, he was the one who was sponsoring me to go and play on the ATP. And so I said, listen, it's impossible for me to call him to say I went to casino and I'm here in Nice. And he said, Mansour, I'll do. So he called Jahangir, and Jahangir said, what? Where are you? We are here. He said, I'll be there in 1 hour. Jahangir came, and I was very ashamed. I was not very comfortable, and I said, listen, I came here, I lost my money, stupid thing from my side, but this has happened. So now I need 2,000 francs, which was like $400. Otherwise, I have to go. And he said right away, he lent me the money, and I went to play my tournaments. But and then I won 3 of 5, and 2 others I lost in the final. This is all, without playing 3 years. So
wait a sec. It's no wonder you remember the date, August 8th, because this is a remarkable. That day is a book. I mean, that's a crazy story. As invigorating as it must have been to at least see your friends there and start to feel like you might get something going in France. Your visa soon runs out, and then you become this illegal immigrant in France. And I understand you spend the next 6 years kind of as this virtual prisoner in France because you're an illegal immigrant, but you also refuse to become a political refugee. Why did you refuse to become a refugee?
That is why my visa was ending on 29th of October. And so the police, after that, I went and I begged them to extend my visa. They said, listen, we are not going to extend your visa, not for a day, but you can apply, you can ask for asylum, you can ask for a political refugee, and you give us your passport, you can stay in France, you can work, you can do your tennis, you can travel everywhere you want, but you can never go back to Iran. And I said, there is no way I am going to forget about my father, my mother, my parents, and just say, it would have been very selfish. If I was alone, no family, that right away I would have asked for a political refugee. But I couldn't accept it because my father, when I left Iran, that day of August 8th, that was the first time he cried. We knew that it's going to be maybe the last time we see us. 3 years after, I went to see him just 2 days before he died. And he said, Mansour, I've been waiting a long time for this moment. And he died. But I think I could never forgive myself if I had asked for political refugee, and not see him before he died.
You weren't unknown at this point in France, even after the first year that you're there, because you're so talented. By the age of 25 in 1981, you reached the 3rd round of the French Open as a qualifier, and your cause to get a visa is a renewal of your visa in France is taken up by influential French newspapers, L'Equipe, Le Figaro. Did that help?
Jian, that was 1981. That was my last chance. I was illegal alien. I was an illegal here. Okay, I was staying, hiding from the police. As soon as I see a police from 100 yards from me, I would change my direction because I was afraid to stop by them, and then they said ask for my papers. I was afraid that they put me in the first flight and send me back. So when I had a wild card to play the pre-qualifying. So I won 3 rounds on the pre-qualifying, and then I was in the qualifying draw. 3 rounds there, and then I came to the main draw. And when I won my first round against Jean-Louis Hayet, who was number 4 or 5 in France, I beat him in a straight set. And we were in war with Iraq. Iran was on the news every day.
Right.
And so that is when the media people, they helped me to get my papers sorted and to get my, they call it carte de séjour here, you call it, I don't know, green card in America.
Right.
So they asked me, who are you? What are you doing? Iranian. I said, yes, I'm Iranian. I'm a legal alien here, and I just want to play tennis. And please, if you can help me to get my papers sorted, I want to live in this country and play tennis. And so they said, this is unbearable, this is impossible. We bring sometimes the dictators, the criminals here, we give them hospitality, we give them security, and this guy just wants to play tennis. And that time, that year, we had only one FM station, radio station. And I did an interview. They play it like 20 times during a day. Week after the French Open, I went to see the police, the immigration office, and the same guy who was asking me to leave the country, he gave me my resident card, which I could be a resident in France. It didn't mean that I can travel.
Right.
Because with Iranian passport, no one would give you visa. I wanted to come to Canada. They didn't give me visa. Even when I was married here and I had kids, I wanted to go to play Australian Open. The Australians didn't give me visa. So until 1989, I got my French citizenship.
Yes.
So then everything became easy and I could travel, and it was...
Let me get to that, because when you talk about the 10 best years, so we're dating it from 79 to 89, where you lose your 10 best years in the prime as one of the best tennis players in the world. There's something else going on too, which is really interesting, or kind of terrifying to me when I think about your story. You know, you say after a while, France offers you the opportunity to play some small tournaments. You can't travel to other countries. But I was watching this Instagram live interview you did with Annabelle Croft, and you said for weeks at a time, you would have nowhere to sleep. You would walk the streets of Paris. You would often make one baguette last 3 or 4 days. You didn't have money. You didn't have resources. And I think about tennis players today who are scouted, you know, when they're 8 years old. I think about the documentary on the Williams sisters, those incredible tennis players, and how they're out in the court with these resources, or, you know, 14 hours a day. And I'm thinking about you walking around in Paris with one baguette over 3 or 4 days, and what that would do to you as an athlete, what that would do to your even energy, let alone your skills. How could you even maintain being a tennis player in the midst of living in that kind of situation?
You know, when you have no choice, the hope was giving me the energy to stay alive and to keep going. You know, there were so many nights I had nowhere to sleep. I never slept in the streets of Paris because I thought if I sleep one night there, that means I accept this way of life, and I would maybe become one of those homeless people who sleeps under the bridges and everything. I walked all the nights, and then in the daytime I would go in Roland Garros in front of the guardian's office. There was a bench, sofa. I would just sit there and sleep 2-3 hours there. One of those days I was sitting there and I could see on court 3, Elina Stasi was practicing with Guillermo Vilas. And so I'm sitting there, I don't want to disturb them, and I don't even know if they remember me or anything. So I wait there, I kind of sleep and wake and sleep, and 2 hours later they finish the practice. They're coming towards the guardian's office to leave the balls and everything. And they come towards me, and I get up and I say, "Hello, Nasti, Guillermo, hello." And Nastasi says, "Oh my God, Mansour, I'm so happy to see you. Where have you been? How you have been? We thought that you were hung up, you were killed in the revolution or anything. No news. I'm so happy to see you, you know." And which was very, very, for me, it was like great to hear that he's things like he's happy to see me. And he told me, "Mansour, can I do something for you? If you need any help, or I can do many things here. If you." That night, I had nowhere to sleep and I had nothing to eat. I just told him everything is okay, Nasty, everything is good. I came here to play and I'm not been long here, and I'm going to, but we'll see us, and then he left. But I didn't want him to, he could have probably say, "Come live with me if you have nowhere to sleep 1 week or two." But after that, what after that? I had to find the right way, and that was not the right way for me. So I had to get out of this mess alone, and otherwise it wouldn't work.
Mansour, as you say, things do turn around in 1989. You had turned, of course, 33 years old by this time, but you get your French nationality. You're able to compete as a full-time professional player starting in 89. And that year you reached the Roland Garros doubles final at the French Open. And, it is amazing the way you were able to come back, but you lost a decade of your prime as a tennis player. And yet, talking to you, seeing you in interviews, watching you on the court these days, you seem so incredibly gracious, so incredibly good-humored. In fact, you're known for your upbeat personality. It's quite remarkable. Were you ever really bitter? No one would blame you if you were bitter. How did you not descend into some kind of morose bitterness for the rest of your life for having your career stolen from you?
You know what, Jian? Today there are many, many players who would have loved to be in my place. I know that there are players who are top 5. They want to play, and they are not asked to play. And I'm not bitter, no, because what can I do? Bitterness can only hurt me. People, they thought that I could have been, great player. I don't know. I don't know how good I could have been. All I know that my best years I was not allowed to play. I couldn't play. I think I'm very lucky man. I'm so lucky, and to be 64 and to play in Wimbledon. No one has ever played at 64 in Wimbledon. They have a policy of, for example, when you get to 59, you play for the last time. And the tradition and the in Wimbledon, it's very unique, and it's a unique tournament, and it's the best tournament in the world.
Yes.
And they're asking me to come back at 64 and to play again, and I've played every year. That is fantastic. To change the rules for me, I think they have never done that for anybody. I'm very proud of that.
You found this. You talked earlier about Jimmy Connors, and in 1993, the ATP Champions Tour was established, and you begin to then find your niche, and you become it becomes this place for you to showcase your remarkable shots to audiences worldwide, and you become this magician on the tennis court that can do things with a racket that made you one of the most famous characters in today's Legends doubles scene. What is it about this for you now? Is it still the love of tennis, or is it getting to do something that you couldn't do for so many years of your life?
No, it's the love of tennis. First of all, I don't ask anybody anything. I don't need to play. I can stay home and not to play, but the crowd is something gives me so much energy. I love to entertain, and as long as I think I can entertain them, I'll go on the court and I play for them. And it's nothing to do with money or they give me a salary to play, but that is not the reason I'm playing. And it's just love of tennis, and just thinking that I'm not going to play maybe in 4 years, in 3 years, or maybe in 2 years. That is hurting me more than anything else. I just love to play tennis.
You are now playing all over the world. I mean, when there isn't a pandemic, you're beloved. Crowds love you. Do you? This story that we've just been through over the last hour, do you see your own story as one of redemption and inspiration, given that you all had to go through? Do you see yourself that way?
People tell me that you are inspiration, and then people come to me and they say your life story, and they tell me, and I think my book was bought in many schools because people came to me and they said this is for the kids. At many tennis schools, even, they told me buying for tennis school, the kids, they have to read this. And if it can inspire someone, I'm happy for that.
What is your best lesson that you can impart to those of us who feel like pursuing our dreams are impossible at times?
I think nothing is really impossible, just keeping the hope and never giving up. That is the lesson I got from tennis. And since I was 5, 6 years old, I had everything against, and I just kept coming back. 24 years ago, I we call it the Legends Trophy, Trophée de Légende in Roland Garros.
Yes.
And for 4 or 5 years, the director of the tournament was asking him to let me organize the Legends Trophy and everything. And Patrice Clerc, that was his name, great man, very good man. And he said, Mansour, old guys, you're not good. Forget it. We're not going to do it. Nobody is interested. I kept coming back year after year. After like 4 or 5 years, he said, Mansour, I can't take you anymore. We're going to do this once, okay? And I know it's not going to work. And I don't want to see you after that anymore. I don't want to hear you, okay? I said, thank you very much. Just give me one chance. We did it. And I remember very well, there was Henri Lecomte and John McEnroe in the final against myself and my friend Guy Forget. And the court 6, it was packed, 6,000 people, and there was like 4,000 or 5,000 people want to come in, but there was no room. And on the center court, they had the quarter final of the men's singles. There was Alex Correggia, the guy I love. He's a great tennis player, great man, and Felix Mantilla. They were playing there was 400 people in the center court, 6,000 in our court. And I was watching the president of the French Tennis Federation and Patrice Clerc. While I was playing, I was telling him, what do you think? This is nonsense? This is not working? And he was smiling and saying, thumbs up, Mansour, you're doing a great job. And we don't want to do it again. So, and it's been 24 years now.
It's amazing. Amazing.
So hope and never give up. I think people should, because unfortunately sometimes people give up early, soon. But you can, if you keep coming back, things can happen.
Your story is an amazing one. I am so grateful, we all are, that you've spent so much time today. Thank you for doing this. Before I let you go, let me ask you one final question, which is, this is a show about the stories from the Iranian diaspora. You talked a little earlier about your relationship with your identity in Iran. What is your relationship to being Iranian these days? And be honest, be Roqe. Do you feel more French? How do you feel when Iranians around the world still claim you as their own?
I love Iran, as I said. I love France. I'm proud of being Iranian. I'm proud of being French too. France has accepted me in this country. My wife is French. My kids are born here. I love this country. And Iran is in my heart. Every day, every second, I think about Iran. And everywhere I see Iranians who are, they have some kind of success. I'm proud of them. And really, people come to me in different cities, countries, when I'm playing. Hey, Mansour, I'm Iranian. I came to see you. I saw you are playing here. And if I have time, I just have a tea with them or coffee or something. If I have no time, I just shake their hand. I say, I'm sorry, I gotta go. Thank you for coming. And it's really, I am always happy to see when the Iranians come to me and they say, Mansour, we came to see you. That's it. And Iran is a great country. I was there with my kids and wife 3 months ago. In February, 4 months ago, and there were some cities I didn't know. It's fantastic, but we know that there is a delicate situation, and but my life is here, and I hope the Iranian people are going to have good days ahead. I hope the things will go easier on them.
Mansour, did you get recognized when you were in Iran? Do people know you?
Yeah, people, they know me more now than 10, 15 years ago, because with the social
YouTube,
media, and there's more. But like 10, 15 years ago, when I was going there, in 1 week, maybe one person in the street would say, Mansour. Now, every 4 or 5 meters, people stop me. But
and how does that feel, the country that you left when you were 20, in your early 20s? How does it feel to go back and be recognized?
It's I played there in 2002, 2003, 2004. We had 10,000 people came to watch us, and people are thirsty of any events that you make. Anything you do, the people love to come and see you. Love to come see Europeans. I brought Guillermo Vilas there, Mats Wilander, Borg, all these guys, and they had the best welcome, and people just want to live a normal life, like everybody else.
Thank you so much for this today. I hope after this COVID is really done, you will continue touring the world, that we'll get to see you here in North America before too long. And it's been such a pleasure talking to you. خیلی ممنون هستم. Thank you so much.
مرسی از شما و تمام هموطنان. Say hello, to everyone. Thank you for listening to me, and it was a pleasure.
خداحافظ.
خداحافظ, Jian.
That is the great Mansour Bahrami. He joined us from Paris, France today. This is a special themed episode of Roqe, the Tennis Titans. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. You can find out all things you need to know about Roqe. Check out our previous episodes. Check out other shows on this network. Visuals, funnies, videos, Roqe moments, all of that at roqemedia.com. roqemedia.com, where you can also become a patron or inquire about being a sponsor for our show, which we really appreciate. Well, there are very few athletes in the world, let alone any of Iranian descent, who can claim to have made it into the top rankings of professional tennis internationally. There are even fewer who can cite the fact that they've been number 15 in the world. But my second guest today has exactly that distinction. Aravane Rezai is a French-Iranian tennis player who made a huge splash as a strong teenage tennis phenom in the early 2000s, then rose to the top rankings of pro tennis by her early 20s, defeating top players on the WTA Tour such as Justin Henin, Venus Williams, and Maria Sharapova. She also won gold medals for Iran competing at the Muslim Women's Olympic Games. But like most things in life, what can seem dreamy from the outside can be more complex and fraught with challenges in reality. Aravane had to overcome the hurdle of coming from a modest family and a rich person's sport, the difficulties of racism as a young player of Iranian descent in France, and the issue of a volatile father who was her coach for most of her career. All that and sacrificing her youth almost entirely for the purposes of a sport can be quite a burden. As such, Aravane stepped away from the game for a while in the last decade, much to the sadness of her fans around the world, including those in Iran. But now she's back and focused on tennis again in her early 30s, and now she's armed not just with a powerful tennis swing, but perspective and wisdom that comes from some distance and growth. And right now, Aravane Rezai joins me from Sainte-Etienne, France. Hello, bonjour, salam, chi begam.
Yeah, you can say everything you want.
How are you doing?
Great, great. Thank you. Happy to be with you and share my story with you.
Are we taking you away from training? Were you just training, or where are you right now?
Well, actually today I had a day off, but usually I train every day and even Sunday. So, but actually I'm in my car.
You're in your car.
Yes, I do. I do.
Why are you in your car?
Well, I'm in my car because I prefer to be in the car because at home I have a parrot, and my parrot just keeps speaking Farsi all the time, and that's why I'm in my car
Wait,
to not be bothered.
wait a minute. So if you were talking, I think we're zooming with you. If you were zooming from your home right now, your parrot would be talking in the background in Farsi?
Exactly. Yes.
What would, is it a he or a she?
Oh,
And
she keeps talking.
what would she be saying?
Well, my name, and she's always like repeating what I'm saying all day long. I know all in Farsi, and that's
So she doesn't speak French or English?
no, she doesn't. Only in Persian.
She's a very nationalistic Persian parrot. Yeah.
Exactly. Actually, I have two dogs. I have two dogs, and I speak with them in Farsi. So, yeah.
You do. You don't. But I mean, what is your? You were born in France. You've grown up there. You
Yes.
spent your entire life, in fact, in France. I would think that your first language would be French. Yes, or is it
Well,
Farsi?
well, I would say my first language is Farsi because I was speaking at home with my parents since I was born, and I just remember I always speak Farsi, and I learned French at school when I started to go in school. So, but I was born in France, so yeah, I always speak Farsi with my family, and then when I'm outside, I speak French.
Listen, and speaking of which, we will do this in English. You haven't done a lot of interviews in English, but so if you want to lapse into Persian or French at any point, you're welcome to do so. But I think your English is fabulous. So thanks for doing this in English.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, actually, yeah, my English is not as good as yours because, well, I never learned really to speak English at school. I just learned on on traveling and being on the court with people, and I just learned English like that. So I never had opportunity to learn perfectly my to be fully good.
By the
So
way,
yeah, I will try my best.
By the way, when players at the international level, when you've got Justine Henin and Maria Sharapova, who's from Russia, and Venus Williams, who's from the U.S., and everybody's meeting on the court, is it basically standard that everybody speaks English to each other?
Well, usually those players, when they come from, I mean, Maria Sharapova, lived in America
Right,
for
right,
many
right,
years.
right, right.
So, yeah, we have most of the players, they know English because they maybe they were born somewhere, but they grew up somewhere else or in America, in Florida. And, but lately we have Asian players, they for many years, they struggle with the language, and French people they do too. and actually Rafael Nadal for many years had issues with interviews after matches because he couldn't speak perfectly English.
Yes.
So he had a person just sitting there during interview to translate what the journalists were talking or asking questions. And lately, he learned how to speak English. But it's tennis is a sport that we are on the top level very early in our age. I would say 18, 17,
Right.
19. So really, we don't get to an age that we are mature enough to learn a language or to do something else on beside of tennis. We don't have much time for
Well,
that.
you've done pretty well. I mean, you're a French girl who has a Farsi-speaking parrot, and and you're doing
Oh
interviews
my
in
God.
English, so it's not so bad. By the way, you mentioned Rafa Nadal.
Yes.
I guess he's a friend of yours, or you guys trained together. There's a bunch of pictures I found of you two. Or you competed together, or what's the
Mm,
relationship there?
no, well, Rafa, I know him since I probably say 13 years old, because European Championship where he has one he's 1 year older than me, so we travel a lot together. We did European Championship together with other countries, Italy, Spain, France. Usually we are always together on a team. And as far as I remember, we played a lot of tournaments together at the same time, same places, and it was him and Djokovic and Del Potro and many other players in my age. We travel a lot together at that time. But with Rafa, yeah, I'm a big fan of him because he's a super champion for me, and I always respected his career, and I had the opportunity to get to know him and talk to him and see his training, and actually even to hit with him many times. And yeah, but we never compete together, but we had a friendly, I would say, relationship, like a players, like players playing athletes,
Right,
and
right.
respecting each other. So
You're
but
kind of
yeah,
like you're a female Rafa to a certain extent because he's known as a real power hitter, right? Isn't he?
yes,
And that's
he
your
is.
and that's your greatest asset as well, or one of them.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm a player that hits very hard the ball, and I always watch men's matches. I never watch women's. I like to watch male because I learn a lot from male matches, and it's really inspires me to play better.
Interesting.
So, and Rafa is one of his game that I like. But before Rafa, I was watching Andre Agassi a lot. So my game and my type of game is based more on Andre Agassi's game.
Well, listen, let's get into your story because I know there are a lot of Iranians around the world. I'm sure a lot of French nationals too who are very proud of you, but may not know about all you've been through, Aravane. And you mentioned Andre Agassi.
Yeah.
I had the chance to interview Andre Agassi about 10 years ago, and I'll be honest, it was quite heartbreaking to hear. He was very honest. I was a great, and I really appreciated talking to him. But it was heartbreaking to hear him say he hates tennis. He does not like tennis. He said the sport that he had given everything to was something he was quite bittersweet about because of all that it had taken from him, and the pressure that he had felt from his father and the family. And I sense you are somewhat in the same position as your hero, Andre Agassi, as someone who has excelled remarkably at this sport, but you don't always love it. Would that be correct?
Well, yes, it is correct because, well, I would say every tennis players, they're not in the same situation. But for my situation, yes, I'm a person that I can say that I don't like tennis. It's not a sport that I will do on my Sunday, or I will enjoying the I'm not enjoying playing tennis. What I enjoy, it's really competing, winning matches, and to be able to win matches, we need to train hard. So we suffer a lot on court. We suffer a lot outside of the court. So all that, it hurts. It hurts a lot. You have to keep fighting. You have to find solution. You have to find power and strength to win matches and to keep winning. So
But you, but do
inside
you,
of the court,
but do you understand how extraordinary it might be for someone to hear you say, you don't like tennis. I mean, there's this. It's partly because we're used to a lot of athletes. Michael Jordan or saying all I've ever wanted to do is play basketball. So now I'm a basketball star, and so to hear an athlete like yourself or Andre Agassi be carrying this burden of saying I don't like this. It's difficult. It's hard to hear
well,
because
yes, because I didn't choose to play tennis. They choose it for me. They already made my life to be like that. They already made my career before I was born. My dad had the idea of making a champion, a tennis champion, before I was born. What is incredible is to have a goal and to reach that goal, and that's for me it's extremely extraordinary because you can. It's like you jump on a mountain without anything, you just jump and you don't know where you get and where you are. It's just you jump, and that's what my father did. He jumped with no clue, but he jumped, and we get there. We arrive to we reach our goal.
But okay,
And
let me take this step by step because
yeah,
this is such an interesting twist in your story growing up. Most Iranian parents, as you probably know, want the kid to be an engineer or a doctor
exactly.
or astrophysicist. And the kid may want to be an athlete. In your case, by the way, I know that one of your things that you always wanted to be was an astrophysicist. In your case, it
Yes.
was your father who was encouraging you to go into tennis. So tell us how this happened for you.
Well, I have an older brother that was on the court already playing before me. But before my brother Anush, my brother, he used to be a good tennis player, but not professional. I remember 1983. Yannick Noah won Roland Garros,
The French
and my
Open.
father
Yeah.
in French Open,
Yeah.
yes, French Open,
Before you're
and
born.
then yeah,
Yes.
like I would say 4 years before I was born, and then yes, he saw Yannick Noah jumping on his father's arms, and then winning Roland Garros, French Open, and then he said, "Okay, that's the sport I choose for my son." So then it's like a virus, the virus went in his brain and never been out for 30 years. So he had a goal is to his son to be a champion. So from that moment, he started to train my brother every day since he was uh, 3 years old. Yes, 3 years old. He started to play tennis, and then every day, and then in 87, 1987, I was born. So then the next 5 years, I was like taking the ball on the court, being on the court, and my father didn't pay attention to me. He was always on the court training my brother, and then the relationship between father and daughter is very special. So it's more fusional, more I would say is different. Father and son is different, but father and daughter it's something else. And then I realized that my father didn't even pay attention to me,
Mm.
so I decided to take a racket one day and just hit the ball back, the the, the ball of my brother. When he was hitting, I just hitting back, and then he realized that, oh, I had a talent, and I everything every day that I was spending on the court, cleaning the ball or taking the ball, and I was just learning everything he was saying to my brother. So I start to play from that day every day, and my father realized very quick that I had very good results, and I was beating all the player. From that moment, I was probably 10 years old.
Agavan,
And then
why were you so good? I mean, you're pretty small in stature. I know
yeah.
you're known now as this intense performer with a lot of power, but as a 10-year-old, why were you suddenly so good at tennis? Do you know?
Maybe I would say my father, he's a good coach.
But why
Yeah,
were
my
you better
father,
than
he's a
your
good coach.
brother? Like, what was your natural talent that you had that seemed to that you
My
excelled? So,
fighting spirit,
uh
I would
huh.
say.
Uh huh.
I'm a fighter. Yeah, the way I like to win, the way I like to compete, the way I fight on the court. I would say it's mental. Yeah,
And you've
it's
always
a
been that
fighting
way.
spirit.
You were like that as a kid.
Yes, always. Not only in tennis,
Ah.
in any kind of. I played a lot of chess at a time, and I always wanted to win. So I could die, but I refused to lose. that was my
Wow.
that was
Wow.
my way of thinking.
So you very quickly become this little young star in tennis, and then in your early teens, this becomes something of a family business. Let me just go back a little bit because
Yes,
I mentioned this in the introduction, but tennis is, from what I understand, I mean all that I've ever learned about it, it is a class oriented sport. It costs a lot to play. It costs a lot to train. It costs a lot to tour if you want to be
yes,
at the top levels. If you want to be one of the best. And you come from a relatively modest family, right? You don't come from a lot of wealth. Your family wasn't super rich
yes,
growing up. So
exactly.
you become this tennis player, and is it true that the family basically kind of builds a business around you?
Yes, I mean, my father was my coach, but then quickly, I had my brother as a hitting partner because when you play tennis, you need a partner. But my brother was part of my project, my goal, and that business. And my mother for many years, she was a medical student for many years, and she had to retire because of me, because she was pregnant of me. So then she decided to stop everything and to follow me, and to start to do recover with me and stretching. She was kind of my physiotherapist. And so I had my father, my mother, my brother, and me. And I have a younger sister, which she had to sacrifice a bit her parents, because she was alone many time, many years. And she misses her parents, and it's a kind of sacrifice she make for me.
So
But
let me get this straight. So by the early 2000s, you're in your mid teens, and
yes,
the and I mean this is just this is a lot of pressure to put on
yes,
a young girl. I mean you are basically not just feeling the pressure to be a good tennis player, not just being the pressure to be a good daughter, but you're carrying the financial pressure
yes,
of the family. Were you
exactly.
how was that for you?
Well, how can I explain? When you're young, you have no choice. You have to move on. I can see how much my parents, they were spending time and money for my career, for my best. I couldn't disappoint them. I had to do my best. But I knew that I was the only one that could bring the money at home. And if I had, if I there were some tournaments that we had money to go, but we had no money to come back, and I had to win the tournaments.
Wow.
And then there were players much stronger than me. So then at that time, at that point, it's a survival process. So you have to win. It's not it's not fun. It's just you have to win to eat or to come back. So
And so
that
so
pressure,
if you don't win, you are feeling again not just the pressure that you've disappointed yourself as a competitor, not just the pressure that you've disappointed your coach, but you're worrying about that you don't win the prize money too, and that the
yes,
family needs.
Exactly. That's
Wow.
what I. And then when you go on the court with that goal, and you know what what is the game is about, then you fight. You just go to to you just go on the court and you kill your opponent. You have no choice. You have to, because I train so much. I train 8 hours a day every day, and then I had the opportunity to win the tournament. So it was a matter of just being stronger and just fight, and that's why I was better than everyone, because I trained much more than everyone else, and then I had that pressure that the others didn't have, and that's probably it's a pressure, but it's a strain at the time, you know.
How
it's
would
it's
you how would you suspect your family would tell this story? Because I guess the inverse of this, or the opposite story, or from their perspective, it could be, we saw some talent in our daughter. She seemed to really take to tennis, so we sacrificed everything to make sure she was a champion. Would they say that?
yeah, of course they do, but you know, Iranian parents, they always do that. But yeah, but it's okay, I'm fine with that, and of course they sacrifice, and they are right to say it. It's okay. My goal is to see the results. I don't care what how people see or how people talk, or my goal was to win and to be different. I remember when I was on school, and my teacher, you know, when you're young and the teacher always asks, what do you want to do later on, and you and my schoolmate, they were saying, oh, I want to be a doctor. The other was saying, oh, I want to be, I don't know, a soccer player or whatever. And when it comes to me, I said I want to be unique. And
Hmm.
all the kids, they were laughing at me. I said, oh, it's not a job, it's stupid. And I
Yeah.
said, I don't care. What I want to do is to be different than anyone
But
else.
here's the thing. You were different, and it wasn't always easy to be different too, because I know that
Exactly.
beyond the other stuff we've talked about in terms of the financial pressures and the class element and being pushed into tennis and all that, you also faced some racism as a young athlete in France, which
Exactly.
it's
Exactly.
surprising to me, because you're you're born in France, and you're this pretty girl. You're good at tennis. I would have thought, okay, maybe you could just get away with this in terms of, but I guess folks would see you as Middle Eastern, or would see you as Iranian,
Exactly.
and how did it play out? What would they say? What would they do?
Well, you know, I had a lot of moments that I felt very bad, because yeah, tennis, it's a tough sport, because we are Iranian, but in France, uh, there are not big community, and Iranian community, uh, and especially in our town, and well, people thought that we were Arabic, or Algerian, or Moroccan, or
Uh,
and they thought that we were like Arabic, and they don't like, you know, the French people. They have problem with Algerian, Moroccan, because of their history before, and and yeah, they were comparing us to them, and many times I had for example, I had to the federation, French federation, they have to help me. All the players, they, I don't know, they get some money, and me, I never had any help, financial help, because I was training with my father, because we were not part of the French federation. They always protect the Frenchy one,
wait a minute,
and the
but you
others,
weren't
they
you a
were.
French? But you're a French citizen, are you not?
Yes, unfortunately, yes. But you know, I'm not blondie, or you know, it's different, you know.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
And and well, my father, when you look at him, you can really see he's a Persian dad. You can you can see it.
Right.
So
Right.
you know, strong voice, strong look.
How did you react to that at the time, Aravane? Did you resent the fact that you were Iranian? Were you angry at your parents for being Iranian, or
No,
did you
not at all. No,
you
no.
you understood what was happening? You understood that this
Well,
was
I hate when something is unfair, and unfortunately, I experienced a lot of situation that it was unfair, and when I see when I was a victim of that, I mean, people, they were cursing at me sometimes, and they were saying a lot of bad things, and that gives me more energy and power to working harder and to win matches. And then those people, they were like treating me bad. The year after, the 2 years after, they come back and say, "Oh, you remember I was one of your fan," or blah blah blah.
right,
And
right,
I
right.
said, "Okay,
When you start
yeah, I
winning,
mean,
and I bet you suddenly became French too to a lot of people once you started winning, right?
exactly."
Yeah,
Exactly. And then slowly I became a Frenchy girl with Iranian origin, and then yeah,
right.
it was
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, yeah. You know, by the way, you don't seem shy on the court. I mean, there was this period where you were competing in these, like, you had some flashy outfits, gold outfits.
Yeah.
Did you like the attention that came with that, or because your style got quite a lot of attention, or for a while as well?
Yeah. My friend, she was a designer, and she was Iranian, and she was a great designer, and I wanted to help her to have a brand, Iranian Persian brand, to be part of the tennis world.
Hmm.
And we share a lot about the style, the design that I would like to have. So we had a common, agreement to help each other. And yeah, actually, my two favorite color was gold and black. And she made a design that I would say, okay, let's do it, let's go. But no, I'm not shy because I like to be different.
You know, I
So
love this. I love the fact that, no, really, that you, even though you were sort of made fun of, or people said offensive things towards you as a kid because you were different, not only do you make it through that, but you embrace being different. I mean, that's what we hope that every kid can do. But somehow you found your way to do that, and
yeah,
it's got to be. I mean, it. You know, I always think about tennis players as the only sport I ever excelled in is soccer, football, and so
yes,
I'm always playing with a team. And I think about a tennis player out on that court by yourself. It's inevitably there's got to be so much pressure, let alone all
yeah,
the other things that we're placing on this, and then to put yourself out there and to create the conditions where you're even more unique. It speaks to a real confidence that you had when you're still a teenager. You also win two tennis gold medals at this Muslim women Olympic Games that happened in
yes.
Iran. What was it like to compete and win in Iran for you?
Well, I remember when I had the opportunity to go to Iran and to play there with my father. Um, yeah, I mean, people, they were interesting how powerful, how strong I was playing, and they quickly they recognize me, and they say, "Oh, we really want you to play for that event, for that Olympic game." And obviously, I never had the opportunity to play because I knew that it was an event and not a tournament. And I said, well, let's experience that because I always play in France. I felt that I'm French, but to play in Iran, it was totally different. Different experiences. To play only in indoor between women, and all that was totally, I mean, funny at that time, but now it's less funny. But funny when you're 14 years old. It's funny. You're inside. You experience. You play with women. You enjoy the team. But yeah, I mean, if I had to do it again, I would do it. But obviously, it's a good memory that I played there. I enjoy. I mean, in my career, I can say I won 2 medal gold in Iran, but uh, what I want to win is French Open. That's more
Gotcha, for sure.
interesting for me.
Did you feel? I guess around that time, especially as you begin to ascend into the top rankings in tennis too, in around a little later than that, did
Yeah.
you start to feel like you have a? I mean, I can only imagine you had a. There's a couple of people on the Roqe team who were growing up in Iran at that time who say they remember knowing about you, hearing about you, like you became a star in Iran.
Yeah.
Were you aware of that? Would you hear that when you would go and compete in these games? Did you know that you had all these fans in Iran?
Well, I realized later on that I had a lot of fun. Not on that moment, because I was on a social media. I mean, Instagram it's less than 10 years. Facebook probably a bit more than 10 years, and I wasn't on a social media. It's just later lately when I went back to Iran and I had a Instagram. People knew my name. When they say my name, they heard my name, they know me, but they don't know my face. It's funny because they
Right.
had no clue what I'm look like. It's funny, but they know my name. They know it's Aravane Rezai playing tennis, but they don't have idea how I look like. So lately I realized how much fun I have in Iran, and I try actually, since I have Instagram, to share my story, my life with them, and speak Farsi with them, because I like to also share what I'm living and share my experience, my the way I improve, and the way I had to reach that level where what I have to do to go through that.
Yes.
It's important for them to know, because most of them they say, oh, you live in France, it's easy for you to reach your goal. Here in Iran we can't, it's difficult. And it's not as easy, but even here I had a hard time to be a champion. So anywhere in any world, when you have a goal, you want something, you can have it. It depends how much intensity, how
Yes.
much your determination, your strength it is to
You
get
know,
there.
this coming from you is important because I think your story is quite inspirational at this point now. But even if we had spoken 5 years ago, I mean, you did have a downfall. You went through a very difficult period. And
Yeah.
right before that, so, just to catch people up who don't know the exact story, by October 2010, I mean, you become the number 15 player in the world. You've defeated some
Yes.
very big names. You come close to beating Serena Williams in this big match. I remember that one. Did you have any idea at that stage that things may unravel for you, that things could go bad, or were you just on top of the world?
No, for me, when I won Madrid or I won those big tournaments, I I had no clue that was probably the last year that I will compete. No, actually, I didn't think like that, because my goal was to be number one in the
Yes.
world. So I was on the track too. I beat all the top players, and I always work hard for that. But at the moment, when you are in a family business, and you were talking before, just early in the interview, the pressure of the family,
Yes.
at some point the pressure has to go out somehow.
Yes.
And then the pressure was stronger, more harder. And the family business, it wasn't for me as important as it was. It was more like I was thinking more about myself. And at that moment I wasn't that happy. I had a trophy, but I wasn't happy in my life.
So,
And
so Agavon,
so,
let's be specific about this, if you don't mind. Tell
yeah.
me about this relationship with your father as a coach, because he is known, or was known at least, as very volatile. He could be very difficult. I know things are different now, and you guys have reconciled. But take
Yeah.
me back. When did that? When did the way he acted start to become an issue for you?
Well, since I was a kid, it was like that. But when I start to reach the top level, I really felt the pressure of my father. And then when you get higher, you want more. You
Yeah.
want more and more and more. It's always like that.
Yeah.
And then so the media was there, the financial thing, money was there, a lot of topics, on it was, I don't know how to explain. It's like, you have a big balloon and suddenly everything explodes because it's
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah.
And then at some point when I reached a high level, I realized that I needed a new coach. And um, and then my father really didn't accept that. So
Well,
the fact that I wanted,
there's a big
yeah,
incident that happens. I mean, there's a few, but there's one at the Australian Open in 2011, and your
exactly.
father is accused of violence and threatening your boyfriend at the time, and the WTA bans him from the tour indefinitely pending investigation. The Victoria Police are called in. What can you tell us about that time?
Well, the media talks many things, say many things, but most of the time it's not true. So
Okay, what's true
yeah.
about that? What was true and what's not true?
Yeah, well, yeah, that time I had some problem with my father. I argue with my father. And then yeah, I had a boyfriend at that moment, but my father knew my boyfriend. And then it wasn't the issues. The boyfriend wasn't the issue, but the media decided to include my boyfriend inside. And then it wasn't the problem at that moment. But the problem was, I argue with my father and I decided to split the work, the coaching. I split with my father. I said, okay, you're not my coach anymore. And then I decided to leave. So it didn't go well. It
Right.
didn't go well.
Right.
And then we argue, we fight, and then I stopped there. And then the media decided to make a
But
big deal.
what did he get banned?
He get banned. Yes, he did,
Why
because
did he get banned?
he got banned. Yeah, because they were making, okay, you're you're threatened by your father. You need to be protected. And then at the moment, my father was pretty, you know, uh, pretty hard with me. And then I didn't want him to play tennis anymore.
Yeah.
I decided to just stop a bit, to put my career on hold.
Yeah.
I couldn't play free in the mind. I couldn't be happy on the court, and I decided just to stop a bit, to recover from all this pressure, and then to play it, to come back.
Okay.
But
Did you end up suing him, or is that I can't tell if that's
no,
real?
I didn't.
No,
No, I
that's
didn't sue
something.
him.
Okay.
No.
Okay. That's a made up story in the
Yeah,
media. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
So,
Well, who I wanted to say something.
yeah.
Which family don't have issues?
Of course.
we
No.
we all
Yeah.
do. And unfortunately, I was on my highest ranking.
Yes.
And the newspaper, the journalists, they were, hoping, or looking for a micro or a fight to make it big. So
Believe me, I get it. I for sure. I know exactly what you're talking about. Listen, but the reality is you're at the top of your game as an athlete, as you say, and you make this decision around 2011, 2012. You're only 24 years old. That you want to take a break. You've also told me that you had to actually stay on for a while though, because you had pressure of sponsors who. So even when you want to take a break, then and get out of this cage that you're in, you have to continue because you've got to live up to the to agreements that you've made with sponsors. Is that true?
well, yeah, I couldn't. I mean, I had, like, we say, um, um, a guarantee tournament. I had to, when you enter a tournament, you have to tell them they pay you to come to the tournament,
Right.
some tournament, and they make a lot of advertising on
Right.
you,
Right.
so you have to be there when you play. I felt that it was unfair to
Yeah.
them to not keep playing. And I always fair to people, to my sponsor, and I always being correct. So kept I kept playing a bit, even though I wasn't fully focused on my career, but I just being on the court and try to do my best on the court, but I wasn't mentally there.
And you've already made the case that part of the the magic of being a top player, the way the heights that you reach and that you've reached
Yeah,
is mental acuity, is mental fortitude, being strong mentally.
exactly.
So when things are falling apart behind you, getting on that court alone and being number one becomes that much more of a mountain to climb, right?
Yeah, being at that moment, my tennis career wasn't as much it wasn't important for me. My health, my mental health was more important, and I moved to Spain
Yes.
for 4 years. Actually, my ex-boyfriend was Spanish, and then I went there and I keep focus on my personal life. And then I said always, I'm gonna come back on the tour. I'm gonna start again the practice in 1 month, 2 months. I keep pushing the training, and I realized that after 7 years, I wasn't on the court. So, but I really enjoying working on myself to see the person I am, who I am. And yeah, during probably 4 years, I moved to Spain.
It's amazing that you made that decision, that you had the strength of character to say, no, I'm going to step away, and I'm going to, I know it couldn't have been easy. I'm sure there were some arguments. What was it like to be away from your family after having, not just obviously being close to your family, but being at the center of this family business for all of your life until this point where you go to Spain? What was that like for you?
Well, I decided to not play because I don't like to lose first. So I'm a person that when I go on a court, I go to win. So I knew that I wasn't training good enough to compete. So I prefer to be away from the tournament, and when I put a step on the court, it's to win. That's why I decided to not play. I don't like to be half ready. I like to be
Right,
fully ready.
right, right.
And when you're a center of attention of a family and suddenly you're alone, that was a decision that I wanted to. I wanted to be alone. It was my decision. I wanted to be away from everyone, from everybody that knew me on court or outside of the tennis court.
Were there times when you were away from everybody and everything, as you say, where you thought, I'm not going to go back to tennis? This is it. I'm done with that.
Never, never, never. Actually, in 2017, I made a decision, and then I went to a road that calls Compostela Road. It's a Christian road, actually, that people go to pray and start from France, and they walk till Portugal. So you have to cross all the France,
Hmm.
go to Spain, cross the Spain, and go to Portugal. And I walk probably 600 kilometers alone
Wow.
with my bag, and I went through all France and Spain, and because I needed to find myself, who I am.
Wow.
And
I didn't know anything about this. Does anybody
it's
know about
the
this?
name. Yeah,
Does your parent know about this?
yeah, yeah, they know, and yeah, of course they know. But in that road, you're alone, and you walk, and you're in the nature. And then I walk for 700, 600 kilometers, and then I walk probably for months, and I just keep walking, walking, walking. And at that moment, I realized, after my walk, I realized that I wanted to start professionally again. So
Wait,
in
wait a minute.
2000,
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hang on a second.
yeah,
You walked for 600 kilometers. So
yes,
how many days? How long did it take you?
approximately I walk between 25 to 30 kilometers a day.
So, okay, so this like it was about a month you were doing this,
Yes, a bit
and
more than a month.
where and with a backpack,
With a backpack, exactly.
and you did this totally alone. You weren't with friends. You weren't.
Alone. No, alone.
And would you stop at where would you stay at night?
Well, it's a pretty popular road, so
Okay.
there are places for the people. They walk, and there are like rooms or hotel, mini apartments, and you walk until you're tired, and then you stop and you sleep. You eat there, and you go the next day. You wake up and you go and you walk.
And so at the of course, like everybody listening right now wants to do this walk. I want to go do the walk, or sort of actually. If I could do it less than a month, that would be so. So at the end of this walk, I mean, is it obviously it's kind of meditative, right? Like as you're walking, you're
We
thinking.
can say yes.
Yeah.
It's like I meditate a bit, and then I focus on me. On actually, I focus on my life. I focus on who I am. The oxygen that I was breathing, the nature, the trees, the bird, the flower, every little thing. I was paying attention of the beauty of this world, and then you realize that in this world you're nothing. You're just a human, and then you can die the next day, and that's
And by
it.
the way,
So
let me just put this into perspective. So by this time, you're a woman in your late 20s who has, up until the last couple of years, spent
yeah,
your entire life, almost every moment of your entire life, focused on this career that you've had since you were a little kid, with your family around you, with TV cameras around you, with
yeah,
tennis courts around you, and that's been all that you've been able to do.
yes.
And suddenly you're alone with a knapsack walking. What's one of the biggest things you learned about yourself on that walk?
Um, I would say how strong mentally I am, how that I could pass all the limits that I can imagine, or I would say how my strength is to remember from where I came from. That's that's the point. Where I come from, where my family came from, my grandfather, and back and back. So I have to understand all my generation story, and then once you realize all this, all the where they went through and what they have to do to keep living, and why I ask myself why I'm living, why I'm alive, why it's you ask yourself many questions
Yes.
when you walk, and when you walk it's like you ask yourself like life questions,
Yes.
universal question, or about universe, about whatever, everything you put on the table, and you say, okay, who I am, and who I am is Aravane. And what I want is to be a champion, and then now I'm ready to go on, now I'm ready to move on, and now I and after that walk I realize who really I was and I am, and from that point I put everything, I do everything in my in with all my power, to with all my strength, to come back on the top level. So from that from that walk, from that I would say that path, after at the end I knew what I wanted to do
And
for the rest of my life.
who was the first person you told?
I mean, no one. I just did what I have to do, and
When
then
did you tell your parents? When did you tell your dad?
no, I didn't tell my parents. They don't even know that I did that. I mean, they know that I did that road, but they never thought that it's because of that road that I made a decision. No, um, I did that road, and then I went to Paris. Actually, I mean, at that moment I was in Sainte-Etienne, and then when I made that decision, I said, okay, I'm ready. I took my car and a bag, and I went to Paris and start to organize my team without my family. So they were not part of my career. I thought to myself, okay, I want to start again, but they're not going to be part of my career. I'm going to do another career without them, just because I want to do it. I decide to start that career with new people, with new coach, with new team.
And how's it going?
For for the first 6 months, extremely bad. I would say it was extremely bad, because I realized how far I was from the level that I wanted to be.
Hmm.
So I realized that physically I was extremely late, and I had to work a lot to be able to compete again. So I knew it's going to take a lot of time at that moment.
Looking at your social media and talking to you now, I mean, you do seem to be in such a good place. In fact, your Instagram, for example, is so full of inspirational sayings. Things like "Don't
Yeah.
grieve." Your attitude defines your altitude. I love that
Yes.
one. I mean, I think I'm translating it. It's in French in your Instagram, but I think that it translates that way into English. Um, you keep going. This all makes sense to me now. I didn't know about the walk and and the journey. I mean, the actual literal journey and the metaphorical journey you've been on as well, to really knowing yourself. What? How is your relationship with your family these days?
Well, it took a bit of time since 2017, when I went to Paris, and then I started to organize my team to start again my career, for approximately a year. At that moment, during 1 year, I just focus on my health to see what's missing, if I have no injuries, if I can do sport, if I can run, if I can. And then during 1 year, I spent my time in Paris. And then after, I realized that after uh, trying with few coaches, that I don't get good results. They were not as good as I want. I search,
Hmm.
and they were more like they wanted to work with me for the image, for the. They knew that my tennis was is still good, because actually I'm playing good tennis wise, but physically I need to work harder a bit. And then they always wanted to I would say, take this part of me. They wanted to show on the media, oh, I'm working with Aravane, and I'm her coach, and I'm blah blah blah. She's coming back, she's trying. But I test with them, I try with them, and I realize that they don't have they want to take a piece of you all the time, and then
Uh-huh.
they try to use your image, and then I didn't like that.
Uh-huh.
So I start to think and say, okay, who's the best coach, and who thinks that you're the best? It's your father. He's gonna be always there for you, and you that he's gonna be the only one that can brings you to the top, because he's gonna be the only one that can push you to the top. So I I make a sacrifice. I say, okay, Aravan, it was too hard for 20 years, but you have to go back again, and to go back on the court and push again. And it's going to be tough, but you know what you want. So you know what you need to do to get there.
Whoa.
So,
So you went.
yeah,
So this is like
my father.
we're getting the last chapter of a novel. I'm waiting to see what happens. So did you go back with your father?
Yes. So then, now it's less than a year that I'm working with my father every day. But our relationship is totally different than before. Well, it took time. Huh? It takes time to
Yeah.
to it takes time to make everything, to build everything, the relationship with my father. It took a bit of time, but now it's much better. We are able to having fun together. When I'm tired, I say, oh dad, you know what, I'm just tired, I just don't want to play, just give me a break. And he's like, okay, no worries, what do you want? So he loves me so much
Oh,
that he's like, okay, I don't want to lose you again, I don't want to I just want a daughter, and me, I just want a father. So our relationship is more healthy now. And
yeah.
on the tennis wise, I'm playing super good, because when you're free in your mind, then you're stronger, then you can play better. And that's what is happening to me. So
This
now,
is the best story I've ever heard. This is a great story. I had no idea that, because I knew you were, because you've been kind of a mystery, like there's, like, you're coming back. People know that you're sort of doing tennis again and coming back, but at least in the media publicly, there's not a lot of information. I know. I guess
no,
you've been keeping it under wraps, right? So I
yeah,
wasn't sure
actually,
who
i'm
your
i'm
coach
not
was or
I'm
what.
yeah, I'm not sharing much my we keep it a bit secret, because actually I prefer to show with my results, with
Yeah.
winning matches. I don't want to, make a big deal and saying, oh, I'm coming back, I'm gonna win all the tournaments. No, I prefer to keep it low key, because we never know what is gonna happen. Maybe I will reach there, maybe not. We don't know. So I prefer to keep it secret, to work hard, to do what I have to do. And once I'm on the top, and people will hear about me.
Yeah. So when you
But
go back, I have to know, when you make the decision that there's only one person who can push me the way I need to be pushed. There's only one person who can inspire me the way I need to be inspired. There's only one person who can antagonize me enough to get me angry to get out there on the court and push myself as hard. And that's my dad. Um, what was the conversation like with your dad? Do you call him and tell him that? Do you turn up at the doorstep and say, "Okay, let's go"? How did it happen?
oh, I would say, well, my sister got married, and then I met my father, and then I spent a lot of time with my family. And then, yeah, we slowly we get to spend time together, but without talking about tennis. So the goal was, okay, let's enjoying the family
Be a
time.
family, yeah.
And then slowly we start talking about, okay, what do you want to do in life. He was asking me, what do you want? What do you want to do, which point, where you at, you know and I said, I want to play tennis. And he's like, okay, but to play tennis you have to work hard. So I said yes. So that's how we start talking, and then trying first to see, first 10 days, and then after 10 days we decided to have a conversation and say, okay, is gonna work, are you happy, are you not happy, what do you think? And then, yeah, we have a conversation now, we can talk. Before it was a situation that, okay, I'm the father, you're my daughter, and you have to
Yeah.
listen,
Yeah.
and you have to do it. Now
You've
we
got
we
agency now.
share.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we share ideas, and then he listens to me and I listen more to him. So it's healthy, and I'm happy with that.
It sounded like, I mean, he needed the same break that you needed to get perspective, and it
Yeah.
was a lesson for him as well. Even though he didn't walk the 600 kilometers, um, he felt them clearly. I'm so honored to hear this whole story, and so inspired to be cheering you on, along with so many people around the world, as you, no matter what happens, no matter what happens in terms of your tennis career. I should say, and I want to just clear this up for you too, because I think I know a little bit about it, and I want to give you the chance to explain. A lot of the people listening to this program are of Iranian descent, and you even on your Instagram say you've got when the flight 752 was shot down and things were difficult in January, you've got a heart posted on the map of Iran, and you it's clear you wear your Iranianness quite proudly, and you feel that connection.
Yeah.
And you've had to deal with some Iranians feeling that you're not acting as you should. There was this situation in 2009 where you were invited to Iran, and you were put next to President Ahmadinejad at the time. And you gave him a racket as some kind of formality, and then he ends up using that as an endorsement, as an advertisement in his election campaign.
Exactly.
And then you become associated with, this being some big supporter of Ahmadinejad, even though that wasn't really your intention. I think, if that's the way I know the story. Do you want to clear that up for us?
Yeah, that was the case. I went to Iran. I was invited to Iran to not even to meet the president at that moment. It's just being invited with the elites of Iranian from not from Iran, right? They were living outside of Iran, but they were like doctors, surgeon, and they were the best in their countries. And then we were all invited, and then suddenly we are, I was 17, 16 years old, and I didn't know all these things. And I went there alone, without my father, without my mother. And my cousin, it's a girl, my cousin just followed me, and then she's older than me, and like a mother, she was taking care of me. And then I went there into that meeting. And suddenly I saw, my cousin said, okay, you're going to meet the president. It's great to give a gift, And I was listening to that cousin, and I said, okay, maybe she's right. I don't know the culture here, what we have to do, what we have to say, and it was, for me, new. Everything was new. And then I went to that meeting with 2 rackets, and then suddenly the president came to me, and then with 20 cameras and journalists, and I didn't know what to say. I start to cry. I start to cry because I was not expecting that situation. And then I give the 2 rackets, and then my cousin start to speak and say something in the camera. And I was like, keep repeating what she was saying, because I didn't know what to say. And then right. You at the moment, I don't know. I didn't know what to say, what to do. And I say, okay, suddenly you have 20 cameras. You don't know what to say. Right, and then I just give the racket. And then I came out of that conference, that meeting. And then many people told me that he uses for the advertising for his election, and for me, I would say, okay, I don't care, whatever, right? Because I didn't know the politics in Iran, how
that's
things they were going.
That's the Green Movement election too. So people are particularly angry that they're like, why did this tennis girl come and support Ahmadinejad? And
But imagine a French girl that just speaks Iranian, have no clue about the political and siyasat or whatever is going in Iran, and that meets only the president, because, it's at that moment I said, okay, it's an honor to meet the president.
Yes.
That wasn't the only way I thought.
What are you supposed to say? Exactly. I understand.
Very in an innocent way, I didn't think what he was going after. I had no clue, no idea.
Well, I'm glad that we've cleared that up. That's what we can clear that.
Perfect. Perfect.
I am so grateful for the time you've spent today. I've enjoyed this.
You're welcome.
It's great talking to you, and Like I said before, I can't wait to watch you back on the courts.
I hope, I hope. But thank you for listening to me, and I'm happy to share all my stories. And then, yeah, I hope you will cheer for me when you see me on TV, because I really need your cheers and then your your strength, and then to your encouragement really helps me to move on and to fight and to win matches.
We will all be cheering for you. Me, my dog Oogie, your parrot, and everybody listening. We'll all be cheering for you.
Thank you.
Merci. As I'm talking to you again, thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Khudafiz. Aravane Rezai, the French-Iranian tennis sensation. We reached her in her car in Sainte-Etienne, France. This is full time for this special edition of Roqe for today. For all things Roqe, our previous episodes, all of our guests, information, videos, funnies, the contemporary history of Iran episodes, go to roqemedia.com. That's where to find it all, roqemedia.com. That's where you can also become a patron of our program for $5 or $10 a month and be a sponsor as well. Thanks to the amazing team who put this show together. Talented Anahita, Super Patty Sauce, Savvy Roham, Ponta the Artist, the fabulous Kian Alhaya Mehrdad, Captain Reza and Groovy Shaya. Thank you to all of you out there for supporting us and sharing our content. Please subscribe if you have not done so already. You can find me on Instagram at Jian Ghomeshi. Stay tuned for another special edition of Roqe next Monday. In the meantime, Mizun Bashir.